Hey everybody, it's your hospitality friend Glenn here. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Today is going to be a really interesting one because we're going to be talking about what's going on in that market. And quite frankly, if I speak to 100 people, I get 100 different stories about what's going on in the market. We get a great guest to talk about that. In fact, it's our friend Michael Shindler, who's been here 10 times already. This will be the 11th, but before we bring him on, and yes, he told me that I can't count that high. So, he had to help me with that. But before we get to that, my background today is I'm standing at the cool Citizen M in Times Square. And the reason why I have this is because yesterday I did a great discussion with Casper Overbeek, their chief people guy. He's all about, creating excitement and energy around the properties. We tried to demystify what Gen Z is all about, along with our friends over at Integra. So please go over to our No Vacancy podcast page, our official No Vacancy podcast page on LinkedIn, and you can register still for that event for free, get a chance to watch it. And while we kind of figured out what Gen Z was all about, I think understanding what the investment market is all about and the state of the hospitality industry market is all about is still more of a mystery than why this guy keeps coming back on the show. I'm talking about Michael Shindler of Four Corner Advisors. How are you, man? What's going on, bro?
All's good. All's good. It's getting hot in Phoenix. And so trying to get my exercise in the mornings and
good for you.
Stay out of the 90 degrees in the afternoon.
Are you serious? 90 degrees already? Well, I think I'm not jealous. We got a 15 cloudy over here in Long Island, and it is something special, let me tell you. So, sure. Michael, last time I saw you, I think it was in an elevator. And
I think that's right.
Yeah. We were at the Alice conference, which is a month ago already. And I'm curious to how you felt about your opinions then versus kind of what you're feeling right now.
Well, we'd gone through the blitzkrieg of executive orders from the first week of the new presidency.
Yep.
And I think my word for the day is chaos. That has continued. More orders, more lawsuits, more injunctions.
I should say I'm taking measures into my own hands. I'm going to go buy some tequila today just in case these tariffs take off. I need a stockpile, Michael.
Well, we're working on a transaction in Canada, and my clients were concerned that the unpredictability would be, and unfortunately the transaction got a little delayed. We're about to close it, but we just don't know.
Correct. And I will see your I don't know and raise you another I don't know. On yesterday's show with our friends over at IIG Design and Throughline Purchasing by IIG, they're working on a new project opening in Mount Airy, North Carolina in 2026, and it's adaptive reuse. They're reinventing an amazing building, but they don't know what's going to be happening. So their pricing is all over. Here's with one contingency, here's with the other. So check yesterday's show for that as well. So yeah, back at Alice, after 1 week, a lot of executive orders.
Yeah, but now we're seeing, we still don't know where interest rates are going to go. Chairman Powell seems to be asserting, although subtly, his independence, and doesn't sound like there's going to be any decreases of the rates anytime soon. So there's uncertainty there. Immigration, at the end of the day, some of the immigration obviously needs to be slowed down, but there's going to be a sort of a wave-like impact, I think, if people are not doing some of the jobs that we Americans don't want to do, then the people who can work in the hotels, they may not be able to do it. We've got, I actually thought yesterday about the various government layoffs and what happens to all those people? And they're not just all in Washington. There's 3 million people. I looked it up yesterday. 3 million people employed by the federal government, and across the country.
Yeah. And that doesn't even include contractors and contractors and stuff like that. Right. I know a number of people that I'm close friends with that essentially work for the government, but they're not government employees.
And then you got PIPs coming up, which everybody's been concerned about. Debt maturities are still out there. It's gotten much quieter than it was when we first started talking about this during COVID in early 2021, where
Yep.
everyone was counting it weekly as to how many maturities there were coming up. The number's not 25 billion like it was then in the CMBS market, but I'm guessing it's still in the 12 or 13 range right now. So it's not nothing. And so how are people going to refinance? Money is still allegedly sitting on the sidelines. We've been hearing this now for 2 years.
Michael, I've been hearing it my whole career. But at Alice, people gave me very convincing arguments that said money was coming off the sidelines because loans are coming due. People are going to have to make moves. Things are going to have to get done no matter what those interest rates are. So were they right at the time, and are they still right today? I mean, what's going? Yeah.
What is it going to do to pricing? The people who are buying because the seller has to sell is probably going to be in a bit of a bind, and are prices going to start coming down? Are all those values that everybody's looking at going to go down? Are the major REITs going to all of a sudden lose value in their stock? It's uncertainty. It's not as though we can't look at all these things and identify what the issues are. We just don't know how they're going to be solved.
This makes for a great conversation. I ask a question and we both answer, who knows?
Who knows? Tariffs. Again, the news today said tariffs are going to be punishing, quote unquote, and on both Canada and Mexico.
Right.
And they are only our two biggest trade partners. So what does that mean? And by the way, we get cheaper natural gas from Canada than what we can produce it for ourselves here.
Right.
And apparently so now I don't buy the notion that the foreign countries or the foreign distributors pay for the tariffs. So we got that. We're still facing labor shortages. Your friend Sloan Dean was interviewed by Jeff Weinstein. At least it was published this week. And labor shortages.
I think they recorded that one. We saw each other at Alice. Yeah.
Okay, but labor shortages. He's still talking about it. So,
well, according to the American Hotel and Lodging Association, 85% of properties are still reporting labor shortages. Right. So that's at that point, it gets me thinking, well, maybe it's just not a labor shortage anymore. Maybe it's just about a labor reality at this point, and we're going to have to figure out a way to do a workaround, particularly if there's going to be less of an influx of potential human beings to have that job. Well, yeah, Daniel's property, they're still short staffed over there. Yeah. So my advice for 2025 is, and hey, I never operated a hotel in my life, so take it with a grain of salt, is you got to kind of figure out ways to do more with less, right? And I think technology will be a good solver for that. But this is not a technology conversation. Michael, please continue.
Well, I saw my friends and former colleagues, Dexter Wood at the Placentia Group, published an article earlier this week. And I have huge amount of respect for them. I love Lou Placentia.
Yep.
But people are, they talked about growing in the stable economy. Well, it's not really stable yet. I understand Trump's a pro-business president. And so people who are in business on the whole should generally benefit from the policies coming in. But how long is it going to take? How long are the lawsuits going to slow things down? Are they really pro-business policies when you look through them? I'm not a big believer in unintended consequences. And so we're seeing all different types of consequences here. And you do X and Y happens.
I think we got the pro-B part right, but it's probably pro-billionaire as opposed to pro-business. That's just that's my hunch by being an observer.
But you're there, Glenn, so you don't have to worry.
That's true. As my buddy Craig would say, I should just gas up G-Force 1 and we can get out of this.
That's right. Place. You can leave. But a great article by Dexter. But suggesting more transactions, not necessarily individual transactions. So that, that gets into our management company is going to be merging. And
yes.
So,
but more management companies will get created as well.
Because there's always a spinoff. So
there's also people that are too expensive for the companies they work for and over 50 and get laid off. And then they start management companies. So, that's part of the natural cycle of the hospitality universe over there. I'm sure it's true of other industries as well.
It's true. Some of us are even over 60.
Hey, listen, this over 50 guy over here, I noticed this problem when I was in my 30s and early 40s. And I'm like, by the time I'm 50, I better have it figured out, because I don't want to be put on the sidelines and have to figure it out then, So
we create a lot of consultants.
Yeah.
At certain ages.
Exactly. Exactly. So, keep going, please, with that, with your thoughts on that side of the business.
Article by interview with David Pepper, the Chief Development Officer at Choice, talking about taking Choice more upscale, building more with Radisson, more res delivery from the Choice system, and building to go upscale. Hyatt just took one downscale yesterday and created yet another
a mid-scale brand, which is a conversion brand, I believe.
Well, except it said, if you read the article, they all said for either new development or conversion. And I'm trying to figure that one out.
I agree. Practically speaking, this is not just a Hyatt thing. This is an industry thing. I think we're at that part of the cycle where, because new building is tough, we're seeing the introduction of more conversion brands to be able to open up opportunities that might appear in that conversion kind of a world. There's a lot of flags coming up for renewal every single year, and it's a good opportunity to kind of scoop that competition when building something is really expensive.
Well, and that ties into the PIPs too. I mean, every PIP look at it, you say, all right, is it worth it for me? Have we gotten out of this what we can? Or is there any more? Is this not an ROI PIP? Let's sell it. Let's sell the dream to somebody else.
Yeah.
So I do think we'll see those transactions across the spectrum.
Right.
Luxuries typically don't do PIPs per se, but they have longer term capital planning.
Yeah.
And, you start to look at the 5 and 6 year plans, and there's always something that requires $12 million.
Yeah.
Is it rooms? Is it ballroom? Is it a restaurant redo? Because they got to keep it fresh. And this year it's rooms. Next year it's suites. Year after that it's convention, conference space. Then you got to redo the kitchen.
Right. And then the rooms have got to get done again.
Exactly. So it's just so many things are converging at the same time that to predict that it's going to be a good year or it's a bad year, there are going to be a lot of transactions. There aren't going to be any transactions. Time for the banks to start making development loans again. By the way, when I started my business, it was all pre-development.
Right.
Right now, I have one pre-development deal in my pipeline. It's not, I don't have an engagement yet.
Right.
But it's something, and it's probably a 5, 6, 7 year run before they get to the point where they've broken ground, do their pre-opening, and open the hotel.
Right.
And that assumes that whatever the time comes, a year, 2 years more likely they can get construction financing.
Right. Yeah. And my understanding is when it comes to new builds, a lot of deals being signed with the brands, shovels don't have to hit the ground for a long time, longer than has ever been before. It used to be, I think, I'm making these numbers up now, but I think it used to be like had to be within 6 months. Now maybe it's over 2 years.
It depends. It depends on where the transaction is to begin with.
Right.
If something is here's the design. We need you to tweak it to do your design service to it. So it becomes a Marriott, it becomes a Hilton, becomes a Hyatt. And we can finish that in a couple of turns with the architect and designer. We're probably not going to make any structural changes, so the engineers aren't involved. And we sign now. In 6 months, we'll have our financing. We can break ground.
Yeah.
If it's a piece of land and somebody's got an idea and a preliminary concept, it could very well be 2 years if they're signing up a brand, because the brand wants to tie them up.
Right.
But at the same time, recognize, these guys are smart and realistic. They recognize it's going to be a full year, 16 months before design is done where we're comfortable with it. We, the brand, are comfortable with it.
Right.
And then it's time to fully price it, possibly value manage it, and then go to market. So
yeah. And that also helps for the public companies to be able to get their numbers up for deals signed.
They're nugs.
Yeah. Anything else on the financing side of the business, the financial side of the universe?
I think that I think this is a year you might see many more family offices involved in things.
Hmm.
Not like Walton having its own hotel group, or Michael Dell having his own, or Bill Gates having his own hotel group.
Right.
But I think, the sort of a group of family offices coming together where they've got the same management, investing in some niche product, or smaller management companies that need the capital.
Uh-huh.
Um, I I can't see a change in the appetite for lenders on the construction side right now, unless somebody's prepared to do fully recourse financing, so
Yeah.
totally credit financing.
Mhm.
Um, I'm wondering if sale leasebacks are going to become more prominent in the next year or so, because that's typically deep pockets of capital,
Yep.
and not horrendous lease structures.
Yeah, I agree. And hey, listen, I've worked for them for a while, but check out my friends at Zell Capital Partners in Phoenix, no less. They do sale leaseback financing. If you guys want to learn more about it, check them out. Great resource, those guys for you. Yeah, Las Vegas very successfully did that. They extracted billions of dollars in capital out of the strip to be able to pay down debts in like El Dorado's case, or be able to redo properties, or just take the cash.
Well, in
You know?
fact, the two REITs that are out there now, Vici and
Yeah, Vici owns
and,
Vici is
and,
under Venetian and all of that.
and GLPI. Vici was a spinoff from Caesars.
Yep.
GLPI was a spinoff from Penn Gaming, but they've moved well beyond that at this point. And they're actually moving into development financing. They did that in Chicago, where they both own the land under the Chicago casino with Bally's, and they made a construction loan into the project.
That's pretty cool. For
Um,
everybody, just so they know, Bally's was recently given a license recently within the last couple of years. They opened up a temporary casino, which they have going now, which isn't as profitable as they had hoped it was going to be. Plus, they're trying to deal with the Vegas issue of getting the stadium built and a new property. So that's been moving a little bit slower than they'd like, but hopefully they'll get that out of the ground.
It's interesting. I have been on the negative side of
Yeah.
not because of the location. I live a mile and a half from that casino,
Oh, really? Mhm.
but traffic issues, infrastructure, city infrastructure issues.
Right.
The expectations were always outrageous. The financial expectations were outrageous, and
Yeah.
they're just trying to, Bally's just went private again,
Mhm. Yep.
from the chairman, and I think that their entire capital stack is challenging,
Yeah.
and whether this actually gets done is I'm still not certain.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because I love a good casino project, especially in an urban location. Plus, I'd love to see that A Stadium get figured out as well.
The A Stadium is going to be interesting.
It's going to be great. I'm not a huge baseball fan. I kind of fell off during the strike in the early 90s, but it'd be so much fun to be able to walk out of a MGM or whatever hotel they're going to build on site and just go see a ball game in the middle of the day in the air conditioning. That'd be a lot of fun. So speaking about people enjoying hospitality experiences, let's go on the flip side, from the operations money side to the customer kind of side. Will hoteliers continue to be able to raise rates? Are hoteliers figuring out great experiences that'll get customers to want to spend money? How are you seeing that side of the business these days?
Well, what I'm seeing is there's still not sufficient transient business travel.
Right. I keep hearing the business traveler just
Sort of disappear.
Yeah.
So now you're dealing with the hotels where you're getting trying to get small groups, association business that's lower rated.
Mhm.
In the hotels where there's a mix of pretty, almost a 50-50 that goes a couple of points in one direction every year. Typically in the past, if you got a little bit of an extra concentration of group, you could use that to leverage your transient rates. Or if your transient was busy, you could leverage your group rates. And then with the food and beverage and other amenity things that go along with group,
Mhm.
it would be a nice combination. The last couple of years, transient has not held up its end of the bargain.
Right.
And so and you're competing with everybody now on the group side. So I'm still seeing that, I think I don't see big increases this year in ADR across the board. I don't see them if you go chain scale by chain scale. I think
I don't either.
everybody's going to have a challenge. Maybe luxury in certain markets will continue to do well.
Those immune realities of economics. We're not talking about those people. I'm talking about people like me, Michael, who's my business travel expenses have soared over the last 2 years. I 75%
on a per trip basis, because you're always on the road.
Yes, on a per trip basis, maybe 75% higher than they used to be. A lot of that, to be fair, is airfare, where I used to be paying $350. I'm paying $600-700.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well. I'm actually starting to see a couple of planes that are going out with empty seats too. So,
yeah, because we're hitting that point, and I'm starting to see the same, not necessarily on a per night basis in a hotel, but when you start to figure out the overall cost of a particular trip, then I'm at that point where I have to start making some tough decisions if I'm paying for it out of my own pocket, if it's that kind of a job, right? And I worry that others are doing the same.
Yeah, I flew down to I lectured 2 weeks ago at Florida International.
Yeah. Fortunately, Daniel, for those listening, he says your bar tab is too high. Daniel, I got it worked out. I know how to drink on other people's expense accounts. I've mastered this skill. I'm a black belt in it, so don't worry about me.
I can speak there. But my trip to Florida from Phoenix, I think the airfare ended up being about $800. And there's no compensation. I do this because I'm a big believer in both. I love the teaching, but I'm a big believer in making sure the next generation gets
you and me both. And I've definitely picked up those kind of expenses before.
And by the time I was done, it was probably a couple of nights in a hotel, $1,200. And that's just it seems odd. But I was happy to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Alice forgetting the registration, because I wasn't, just to fly from Phoenix to LA and stay at the East Central, a block from the convention center, and have a couple of meals and take a couple of Ubers.
Exactly. I had the exact same thing. And then you're at the end of it, you're like, dang, thank goodness I had a good sponsor. I want to thank everyone at Unifocus for sponsoring me. really appreciate that. But yeah, Michael, I actually had a flight to San Francisco that I did not have to pay for. That was $1,400 round trip. So a conference coming up later this year, the negotiated room rate is $395 plus taxes, right? So I'm looking at normal people who I don't understand how anyone affords anything already. Are they going to be paying? Are they just going to be paying in eggs now? I don't know exactly how this is going to go forward, but these are a lot of warning signs that I'm seeing now. So I agree. What do hoteliers do you think should be doing now to maybe protect themselves or even gain a little bit more market share?
Well, the easiest way, but I'm not recommending it, is to really pay attention to the rates. And if you have to drop them occasionally, you might drop them a little bit. But that's not a long-term plan. That's, so the person who's hurting
too much, then you've reset consumer expectations and it's hard to get it back.
So I think I think social media is going to be huge in marketing, particularly in local and regional things. You just got to you got to keep running the specials in your restaurant. You got to keep putting somebody, an entertainer in your bar. Things that are not super, super expensive. But I think you can keep housekeeping at every other day.
I agree.
3-day gas.
Or me, like when you're at Alice, not at all, as long as I have towels,
That's what happened at East Central. That was exactly the case.
Which is fine. I didn't want someone coming in my room.
I stayed at a limited service hotel in Florida, and when I checked in, because I knew I got there Sunday night, I was leaving on Tuesday.
Yeah, who cares,
and
right?
They said we do every other day, so that probably you won't have it unless you want it. And I said no.
Yeah,
fine. 2 nights in the hotel. So I think that they'll keep an eye on housekeeping. I think even some of the luxuries are pulling back on things like pulling back, no pun intended, on turn down service and the second service of the day. And I think that very few people miss it, and
Right.
and even at that level.
I think mostly turn down service seems to be an affect of a different generation's expectations, and it's one of those things that it's kind of cool to reevaluate for a modern audience.
It's certainly not necessary. I think that you wonder if people are going to start looking at sort of the Hampton Fairfield, include a breakfast buffet type of thing. See if you can put a few dollars more in rate that costs you more than the food cost.
Yeah.
And it kills your breakfast business if there is a breakfast business.
I don't know. I don't know. Anthony swears that it's important for like when his kids were in high school and on volleyball teams and having all of that. But for me as a traveler, I find generally speaking at that price point for a hotel, the quality of the food is not really what I want to be putting into my body. Right. I'm sorry, but that's just the reality it is. I don't want to eat a muffin that's in a plastic bag for breakfast. I just have coffee and hopefully a banana and I'm on my way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But and I actually take the opposite. I don't particularly like the muffin in the plastic, but you can toast a bagel and put some cream cheese on it.
Totally. But then we have a whole other situation that's all internal here because nobody else has good bagels and I can't rationalize.
Take a piece of whole wheat toast and spread some peanut butter.
All right.
Jeez. But and I still think that model is brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I think so too. It really works very well for 99% of people. I think. I come down every morning. Those breakfast rooms are filled, right?
Yeah. No doubt. If only the coffee was better.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm a snob.
I think that we're talking about all this experiential stuff, and pretty soon everybody's going to say we have an experiential hotel, and I'm still not 100% sure what that means. I mean, if it was a club setting, if it's like a Soho House Hotel or a Gravity House Hotel in the mountains and something like that, it makes sense. But when you start talking about you're flying in for 2 days to Chicago and you're going to stay at I'm going to pick the Hilton, for example, on Michigan Avenue, the Conrad Hilton.
Yep.
What experiences are you going to get? Could they show you where the Art Institute is 4 blocks away? Sure. Are you going to take 2-3 hours out of your day to go see the Nighthawks by John Coover and so maybe, but you're doing that because you're in Chicago, not because the hotel is. So still trying to figure out that whole experiential thing, and I've been around for a while.
The problem with experience is it means absolutely everything, yet absolutely nothing at the same time. So really pinpointing what that means is not only a different definition for hoteliers, but also a different definition for every individual that ever stayed in a hotel.
Precisely. And so, which is why I'm still trying to figure out what it means.
Exactly. And we'll continue to.
I think obviously they have to watch their cost as carefully as possible. I think one of the things I found is the value of the engineering department. Good R&M is critical to if you prolong a room's renovation by a year or maybe 2 because you're really taking care of your infrastructure, it just can't be ignored. And that's true whether you're a budget or whether you're, and I'm on. So I think that's something that's critical. But in terms of getting the consumer in the door, we're our marketing and sales experts on that one. It's tough because everybody's competing for the same dollar.
Exactly. Well, I think the way out of this is going to be smart use of technology, specifically getting closer to your potential customer. I think really understanding what motivates them as a human being and then eventually utilizing technology to be able to create offers and opportunities. I think that's going to be the next big space that's going to try at least to protect us against the rates decreasing over time.
But let's I'm going to take a little devil's advocate with you.
Yeah, please.
If what are we, 70%, 65% branded hotels in this country?
Something like that. Yeah.
So that means we're really dealing with the way to get to know the customer is through Bonvoy or Hilton Honors or
Mhm.
World of Hyatt. And so it's gone from being a local decision to an international decision, a centralized decision in terms of how you're dealing with your loyalty, how you're getting the know your customer thing, and
Yeah.
so forth. Different with groups coming in where you can start to know your groups if they're every 2 years or every year or something like that. And then how many of the franchisees on the optional loyalty programs, because
Mhm.
the ones that are mandatory, they're paying for, they do what they need to do. But how many of the franchisees, and now I'm going to go to the economy and budget and lower mid scale,
Mhm.
how many of them are taking those extra steps rather than really watching their pennies and nickels in terms of the accoutrement of knowing your customer? And so as long as they're complying with the brand standards, apropos of the loyalty program, are they really going to go further? And so,
I hope so. They say so. I haven't seen evidence of yet that, but I'm hopeful.
well, and that's the challenge because the local operator has some discretion, of course,
Correct.
but it's tough to circumvent. Marriott's advertisement now, almost all of it is Bonvoy.
Right. Correct.
And they'll show scenes from different types of hotels, different types of experiences, but it's all Bonvoy, and
Mhm.
it's the most powerful one in our business. Whether it's the best, I don't know, but it's certainly the most powerful.
Yeah.
And so it's hard, and you get up to the luxury side, and then you can start to customize. But again, we're now talking about the outliers, and that's not our business really.
Yeah.
So
I know. We'll see.
I
Hopefully.
think I think I think they're in Bethesda
Yeah.
and in McLean and in Chicago and in Atlanta and
Yep.
every headquarters company location. They are fretting that very question on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Um, I just and I think 25 is going to be one of those years where we have some occasional rays of sunshine and occasional thunderstorms, perhaps at the same time or the same day. It's like Chicago weather. And I honestly don't have an answer.
Excellent. Well, that's a perfect place to end it, in a place of confusion and indecision, right where we started. What do you think about that, Michael?
I got it.
Any final thoughts? You want to pull it all together for us?
No, but I guess I'll give my pitch because I know you always let me do that. Is that
Absolutely. That was going to be next.
other than interest rates, immigration, and tariffs,
Yeah.
some of those other things I might be able to help with. The transactional side,
Yeah.
the oversight side, the structuring side. But I'll give you my best, but I don't know that I have the answer.
I've never seen such a hard sell in my life. Listen, let me vouch for him. He is one smart guy. I wish I had, half the brains he does in half of his brain. You know what I'm saying? Really smart guy over there. Also, you said one way out of this is live music. Why not check out my friends over Creative Exchange? They make it really easy for hoteliers to book live music. I'm on their advisory board, and it is such a cool company. Please check them out. But first, check out Michael over there. Michael, hang tight for a second. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. I want to thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Text the word hotel to 66866. That's hotel to 66866. And remember, you've got one life, so blaze on, and I'll see you soon.